Welcome, I'm your host Lee Adams, and today we're doing another show in our series of local authors. Who we have today in the studio is an author of a children's book called Bella the Butterfly, Lost in the Big City. Welcome to Lisa Satira Brozek. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you, Lee. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. It's great to have you. So tell us where you grew up and a little bit about your family.
Well, I'm originally from Penn Hills, and I come from a very large Italian family. I have 2 brothers and 3 sisters. And family, you know, we were there. In fact, my mother still lives in Penn Hills. And so we go back a lot and visit. And it was just, you know, a lot of fun growing up with a lot of brothers and sisters and the extended families, you know, my cousins and everyone. So, and we had our grandparents around too, which we were very fortunate. Probably till I was at least maybe like 18, 20 with the one set, and then, you know, later with another. But yeah, it was wonderful growing up like that.
What are holidays like with a large Italian family?
Yeah, it's very loud, very loud.
Loud?
A lot of fun, a lot of Italian food. Yeah, it's great. We always have a lot of good memories, and creating new ones with the grandchildren and all the little ones that are coming along. So yeah, it's very nice.
What's your favorite foods?
Oh gosh, well, of course, you know, I love my Italian food. I love lasagna. Other than that, I would have to say, you know, like fish and shrimp, which we always do that too. Like Italian, you know, the big 7 fishes, you know, at Christmas Eve. Oh, my mother would do that all the time. Yes, yeah. So
sounds yummy.
Very delicious. Yes, it is.
Yeah. So when you went to school, did you like English and writing? And I wonder about writing the book.
Yes, I always loved writing and poetry. I loved to draw. I was more into the arts also, so that was where I kind of always steered towards. You know,
so what did you think you wanted to be when you grew up?
Honestly, I think what I really wanted to do, I always thought about going to be an artist, or, you know, looking into doing caricatures and things like that. But I also loved photography, so that was another thing I was thinking of doing. And then that kind of just went out the window for some reason, and I ended up, you know, doing secretarial, became a medical secretary. So I went to school for that. And but over the years, I always would like write little poems and, you know, jot down story ideas and things like that. And, you know, but nothing really came of it, you know, for a while, because then you get married and have children and your life gets busy, and so that's what happened there. So I didn't. But I would always take pictures, and always, you know, would take photography of the children, and still draw and paint. I do a lot of painting still.
So do you draw caricatures of people?
I like doing more like little characters. Like I could draw like all the Disney characters and things like that. I used to like to draw people, but I wasn't as good at that. But now I do hand painting. I paint wine glasses, and I do a lot for weddings and.
Interesting.
And that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Interesting. So where did the thought come from to write this book?
Well, the book, it was funny because actually I wasn't even considering writing a book. I just happened one day to be talking to my daughter, Caitlin, and my little niece, Maria. They were probably like 11 or 12 years old at the time. And I guess they were asking me questions about my grandparents. And they really didn't know my grandfather, Giovanni Salvati. So I started to tell them little stories about him, and I said, well, you know, he would always call us Bella, all the girls. He would always say, pretty girl, Bella, Bella, which means beautiful in Italian. So I said, Bella Butterfly. And I just started to write down, like on just a little piece of paper, you know, cute as can be. And I started to think about my grandfather and how when he was probably 16 or 17, he came from Italy all by himself, left his family, to a new country all alone, and I just started writing, and it just started to rhyme what I was doing. And the more I read, I thought, oh, this is kind of cute. This could probably turn into a book. I have enough here. And that's how that kind of started rolling.
Interesting. So your grandfather that moved from Italy here by himself, he was kind of part of the sort of genesis of your book?
Yeah.
Interesting.
It was, and I truly believe it was like his spirit that made me do it, because I was thinking of him, and if it wasn't that day, and if I wasn't thinking of him, I would have never wrote the book.
So when you get ideas, you just jot them down. Is that, you say you write poems? Is that how you?
More or less, I usually like writing more like poetry. And yeah.
So you think that the inspiration came from maybe your grandfather's spirit that's still
I
with
really
you.
do believe that. Yeah, I do. It sounds silly, but
I
and they say
don't-
when
I believe
spirits,
that.
yeah, and they say when spirits come to you, they usually come in form of a butterfly or
Yeah.
And I really felt he was there that day, and the girls were watching me, and I started writing, and they're like, "Oh, that's so cute," and I just kept writing, and it turned into a book.
Well,
So-
but then it took a different turn about what the butterfly does, and what's
Right.
generally the book about.
Well, it's about a little butterfly. Of course, they moved from Italy to Pittsburgh.
Oh, the butterfly moves from
The
Italy.
butterfly moves to Italy, yeah, or moves from Italy to
Pittsburgh.
yeah, with her family. Papa's still sick, so he's in Italy. So she moves with Mama and the brothers, and the mother says, "We need to go shopping. Take a little shopping trip, and you must listen closely to the words that I say." So Bella doesn't listen too well to her mother. So in the process, they're flying, and she disobeys Mama, doesn't listen. So then what happens is she gets into a little bit of trouble. And then she has to learn life lessons about spending the night alone in Pittsburgh by herself, facing her fears, wishing that she would have listened to Mommy and Daddy, and listened to, and she also learns that it doesn't matter what color your wings are, that your beauty inside always shines through. Because she actually falls into a pot of paint and she turns a completely different color, and so she learns all these little life lessons.
So you thought you would just when did you start thinking maybe you could make this a book and put some of these life lessons in there?
It's funny because I didn't intend it it just happened that way. As I started writing, this rhymed with that and so on, and it just kind of kept going. And then I thought about my grandfather always telling me a story. When he came to America, he couldn't speak English very well. And I guess he was living with a family. Somebody must have hooked him up with some family that he lived with. But anyways, they sent him to the store. He had to buy eggs. So he goes to the store and he says, "I need to buy some eggs." But the way he said it with his Italian accent, it came out like axe. I need eggs. And they thought he wanted an axe. So they're handing him an axe and he's going, no. There's that communication barrier.
Yeah.
And so he finally found someone that could speak Italian, and they explained what he needed. And he said he was lost, and he couldn't figure out how to get back to this house that he was living in. And yeah, so I thought Bella gets lost, kind of the similar.
That's so interesting that like your grandfather's spirit kind of sort of guided you in
Right.
a sense with this story.
That's what I
I kind of believe that I kind of believe that people that have passed can kind of see what we're doing here. So I think if that's true, I mean, we don't know, but if that's
Yeah.
true, I think he's probably enjoying your book.
Oh, I think so.
Yeah.
And he's probably getting a kick out of the fact that his name's on the book too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure
No, I'm
he
sure
is.
he's enjoying it.
I'm sure he is. Now, so you didn't know this was going to be a book. So when did you start thinking it could be a book?
Well, it's funny. Probably like after I kind of almost finished it. I still wasn't complete, like the last, page or so. And over the years, I would think, oh, I should really pull that out, and see what I can do as far as trying to turn this into a book. And I would ask my sister, who's a school teacher, my niece is a school teacher, read this and let me know your thoughts, what age group, try to get some idea what they would. And they said, oh, it's cute. So I just had to finish up a few things with it, but I would always put it on the back burner, and honestly, it was quite a while before I turned it into a book. It was years and years later.
So you had more pros than cons when you were asking people what their ideas were?
Right, asking people. But I felt that the pros, of course, were family, and they all thought it was great. The cons, when I started to look into the publishing process and how am I going to get someone to maybe actually publish the book for me, that's where I was kind of a little discouraged, thinking, oh, this is going to be impossible. I read a bunch of information about, publishers get like hundreds of children's books, manuscripts daily, and you're lucky, to hear back from them at all. So that's what I found that was difficult, that part of it. But then, I thought, and finally I thought, you know what, I'm going to do it. I want to see this in book form, not so much to, sell it or anything, but I wanted it to be something to pass down to my children, And my grandchildren just say, oh, look, Grandma wrote this book, and they could read it to their kids someday. I just thought it would be a cute family keepsake.
Absolutely, absolutely. Interestingly, and this sort of speaks to the creative process, because there was no book before. Now there's a book, but it had to be created.
Right.
And it came from what you feel, I guess, was, I don't know, how would you say it? How can you put it into words how this was created again?
It was just like an inspiration. I honestly was inspired by my grandfather. And that's all I have to say. His memory is what inspired me to do this.
That's neat. That's neat. And the reason I bring that up is because Neil Young, who Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, I was watching an interview with him one day, and he said he walks around with a notebook, and he goes to bed with a notebook, because he says that you never know when inspiration's going to come. And he said, sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and I dream something, and he starts writing. And he's out just watching a baseball game, and something hits him and he just starts to write. He said he doesn't want to miss the creative process, because he wants to make songs. That's his life. And so that's what happened here. And I just find that to be really interesting. And I think it's neat that there's a family connection. It's even more. And it will be something that you can pass on. Right. And it brought you on TV.
I know. How exciting is that?
Oh my gosh, Lisa. So how long do you think it actually took to write it?
Oh, it didn't take long at all to write it, really. Probably it just, polishing it up and all that, probably just a few months. It wasn't even, I wrote it very quickly, but.
So I think one of the lessons here is, like, if people want to do something creatively, I know my son makes songs, that if you feel something, write it down.
Right.
And that's what you do, and
Absolutely.
did.
I did, yeah.
And you write poems and this type of thing, but you did, and now it turns into a book. So that's just so neat. Well, let's talk about the publishing side of it. What were your options when you decided to publish?
Well,
or looked into
looked into self-publishing, obviously. I had a cousin who actually wrote a book too, and I ended up using the same publisher that he did. I felt safe knowing that he had a good experience with this company. So, because I felt that, by the time I actually send out all these manuscripts to all these different publishers, and how long is it going to take for them to get back to me, or I'm going to get a bunch of denials. And so I thought, I'm just going to do it myself. And I had looked at a bunch of different companies, and then I ended up going with the Author House. And
why?
Well, truthfully, they were having a great deal at the time too. But like I said, the cousin also went through them, and I felt, he said, the woman he worked with was wonderful, and they'll, do a good job, and it'll turn out great. So I trusted his opinion. So that's who I went with. But so once, I signed the contract, you get all that going, they're okay, we're going to publish this book for you, and they make it sound like it'll be done in like 3 months. But because of all the illustrations that needed done, and that was probably the part that took the longest, was trying to get, the public or the illustrations to just look the way I wanted them to be.
And that's what I wanted to ask you about next. Did they connect you with an illustrator? Did you find an illustrator on your own, and how does that work?
No, they assign you an illustrator that they think will work with the type of book you're going to, have illustrated. So if it's a juvenile or whimsical or a cartoon type, illustration, that's who they kind of see which illustrator would work for your book. So my illustrator is Mary Connors, and but the funny thing is basically I would sit down and draw the butterflies, and I'd send them to her, and then
because you're a painter.
Yeah, and then she would send them back, and I'd say, no, I don't like the way that looks, and this isn't right, and they look too human, or they look too, whatever, and then I'd resketch and send it back to her again. And I'm talking, this is weeks and weeks back and forth of going on with that type of...
So you had input on the illustration process.
You have input from the very beginning, actually, because Either when you send your manuscript in, they have your manuscript and then they do all the editing. And they may make suggestions to you and say, well, instead of this word, why don't you try that word? Or, instead of, glimmer, use shimmer, or whatever. They'll try to make little recommendations. So there were little things here and there that they would suggest, and whether I wanted to take their advice or not, that was up to me to use a certain or change a word or two. So then you go through all the editing, and then from there, then you have to decide how many pages are going to be in your book, and you have to break down the whole story. So I had to break down the whole story and think, okay, as a little one is reading this, or the parent's reading this paragraph to the child, you want them to visually see what's happening, so you want to make sure that it was just going to work out on each page and break it at certain points. And so I added a couple more pages to it, more drawings, and so.
I'm guessing the illustrator is probably not used to having the author send back edits of their illustrations.
I know, it was like,
but you're multi-talented.
Yeah, multi-talented, yeah. Right.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. So now from a promotional marketing standpoint, is that on you?
Yes, yeah. What they'll do, which is funny because I thought, they're going to help me promote this book and everything. But what's nice about it is, though, they do, is when you sign the contract to do the self-publishing, the book automatically will be in the Library of Congress. You have your ISBN number. No one else can, take your story or your book. It'll also be automatically available online, Amazon.com, and through Barnes & Noble, bookseller, their online bookstore, and then also through the Author House. So you have the three that they're available on, which is nice. So a lot of people were right away going on to Amazon. But as far as you marketing, you have to do it yourself.
I see.
Yeah.
So have you gotten any feedback from the publishing house about the book at all?
Not really. What they do is you can go online and you see how your book is doing. You can see how many are being sold and that type of thing. But yeah, no, you have you're assigned like a coordinator who helps you along the way. Then you have a bookseller, and then you have a marketing person. But the thing is, if you want them to do marketing for you, of course, you have to pay more money. Everything costs, for the self-publishing. So I thought, well, I'll do it on my own. So Bella has her own little Facebook page. She has her own little web page. And Barnes & Noble in Monroeville have been wonderful. I've done author nights with them and readings. And
what are those like?
It's fun. It's fun. The one was really, really interesting because they had a bunch of different authors. And I was the only children's book author there, but they had all different ones. It was an evening back in, I think, February. And a lot of people coming through, just everybody. And I got a lot of interest, a lot of little ones that were, buying the books, and their parents were buying it. I was signing copies for them. So that was cute. So I've done readings and book signings there. I've also been in Oakmont, the Mystery Lovers. So there, and the books are available in the stores there and at Barnes & Noble too, which is pretty neat. Yeah.
Have you gotten any feedback from parents?
Oh yeah.
So what are you hearing?
Oh, they just think it's really an adorable story, and so I've gotten a lot of comments, and some are saying, like the one mom told me that her boys every night would make her read this book to them.
That's got to make you feel good, Lisa.
Yeah, it does. It's cute.
Really?
I'm glad. Yeah, you're touching so many people, and
do kids tell you what they think ever?
Oh, they do.
What do they say?
They'll be like, "You wrote that book? Oh my goodness, that's so neat." Oh, they're cute. And then when I do readings, I wear butterfly wings. So what's really hysterical?
Oh, you should have brought those.
I should have brought my wings today, but they're cute. And the little ones will say, "Did you fly here?" They do.
It's so cute.
Yeah, it's so cute.
They don't know.
They're sweet. They're very sweet.
Oh, that's really sweet. I tell you, it's funny because when I was reading your book and I was preparing for the interview, it made me think of my kids when we were reading them children's books, and their mother would read them books, and then I would go up and read the same book. Well, my daughter was so smart that I would change the words sometimes. I'd say, well, the little boy needs to go eat his fruits and vegetables. And my daughter would call me out. She goes, "That's not in there, Dad." And I thought, oh, geez.
Oh, they know.
The edit was not working for her because she knew word for word
right.
what was in that book.
Sure, they know. They memorize it.
Yeah. So don't try to edit the book because your kids will call you out. But it made me think of that. It was really funny.
That's funny.
It's really funny. So what was the most challenging part of writing this book, would you say, or the whole process?
Oh, well, the whole process. Well, not so well. I would say towards the end, I was trying to how to end the book. Basically, the ending part, I had to, my daughter was cute. We sat down and talked about which way it should go, and so she helped me with that. I would say that basically the publishing part, honestly, the illustrations were the most stressful for me during this whole process. Other than that, everything was pretty good because we went back and forth so many times with it. But and I was always so worried about every little detail and every little placement.
You're like a perfectionist.
Oh my gosh! Well, I'm not really, but I wanted her to get it right, especially this, especially
creation.
Pittsburgh and like the point and everything. And when she came back, it was completely wrong. I was like, "This is Pittsburgh. People are going to know if it's not accurate.
You need to." From Pittsburgh.
No, I'm sending her pictures, of the point and get the fountain right and. So those types of things were just a little stressful, but it turned out really cute. I was really pleased with the cover and how she did do a really good job on it. So
I showed your book to a young fella. He's in his mid-20s. It's very artistic, and he's a great illustrator. And he said, "Boy, I think I could do that."
Yeah.
But that's another area that people can try to get involved with because I think illustrations for children's books are so crucial, don't you think?
Right. Well, and in fact, that was one of the things when I started writing the book, and I was drawing, the little pictures, and everybody's saying, "You need to do the illustrations. Why don't you do the illustrations?"
Did you think of that?
I said, well, I thought of it, but I said, I have no idea how to go about doing that and how to do, page per page and how to, have them flying here and have them turning and flying a different direction. And I just didn't know how to even begin doing that. So that's what I thought. I'll let someone else try it. I'll just
And then you'll just edit them.
I'll just edit.
Yeah.
She probably did not like me during this process.
Well, hey, it's your
That's right.
creation.
It's yours. That's right.
And this is what you want to carry down the traditions in your family, which I think is a great thing. Because you get I think a lot of people have ideas.
Right.
And they say, "Oh, I'd like to do this. Oh, I'd like to do that." They never follow through.
Right.
You followed through.
Yeah, it took me a while, but it finally happened, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I tell everybody, don't be afraid, just, do it. And there's so many people that are even just writing books and they're doing them on their computers, printing them up, binding them themselves. So there are ways to get it done if you want to do it.
Yeah, I should give myself that advice because I have a book that I wrote that's sitting collecting dust in my attic. And I should finish it, and just like you did. But what's the best part of writing this book for you? What's some of the best parts of this?
I would just say just seeing the joy on all the kids' faces when I read to them and all the comments, and it's just exciting to see. And then like a lot of my cousins, or they just want to get the book and they'll write me or call me and say, I donated it to my library. I have a lot of family out of town, so I'm thinking, oh, there's one in Ohio, there's one in Virginia, North Carolina, they're all over, they're getting around. So I think that's really great.
Absolutely.
To get it out there and
How can
share it.
somebody buy your book?
Honestly, like I said, it's available right now at the Barnes & Noble in Monroeville. They have a cute little, in the children's section, there's a little local author, and it's sitting right there with several other authors. There's books available there.
Is that the only Barnes & Noble in Pittsburgh that has it?
That's the only one currently, but you can buy it online through Barnes & Noble also. So you can go through Barnes & Noble
Where
online.
else can they get it?
And you can go through Amazon. It's on Amazon. And through the publisher themselves, which is Author House.
And what are they looking for? They have to go title or author? How they find
either way, but usually, if they put in Bella Butterfly, Lost in the Big City, it'll come up. Or if they don't remember the name of the book, they can put in my name. It would come up that way too.
I gotcha. What advice do you have for somebody that's thinking about doing something like this?
I would say do a little bit of your research to see which would be the best way for you to, whether you want to do self-publishing or if they want to try to have a publisher pick them up. You know, do research either way and see what would work best for them. But to definitely, yeah, follow through and do it. Don't, you know, don't waste time. And if that's their dream,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely, make it happen.
That's great. Are you happy you followed through?
Oh, I am. Yeah, it took me, like I said, a little bit of time. A couple years, yes, but I'm definitely, I'm thrilled. Yeah, I'm very happy.
It's taken you places you didn't expect to go.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's wonderful.
Yes,
It's wonderful.
yeah.
So looking back, would you have done anything different with the process?
I don't know. You know, I think about it because I thought, oh gosh, you know, it was like 10 years, you know, when I really first wrote it before it actually got published. You know, it's been a long time. But I think, well, maybe if I would have tried to get it published and sent it out to all these publishers 10 years ago, would have something happened? I don't know. But I think that today, what came out last April, I think this was probably a good time to have it come out, only because with all the media, the Facebook, the, you know, everything on the computer, I think it's getting out there a little quicker and it's spreading more than it probably would have maybe 10 years ago or so.
Absolutely. So where do you go from here?
Well, everybody's asking me, are you writing a little, you know, second one about Bella? So I've been tossing some ideas about what maybe she might have another little adventure, and I have a couple other little ideas that I'm writing, not Bella, but some other little books. So we'll see what happens.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. I'm so glad that you could come and spend some time with us today.
Very glad to be here.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
it's great. I mean,
Thank
children's.
you.
I just think children's books are so important because
absolutely.
if we get them on the right track and create the love for reading, that's just a wonderful thing for their education.
Right, absolutely.
It really is, and we did it every single
I know.
night.
I did that too with my
Yeah.
children, absolutely.
And this could be in the rotation. Bella the Butterfly, Lost in the Big
Yes.
City, Lisa
Yeah.
Satira Brozek. I'm just so glad that you could come.
Oh, well, thank you, Lee. Thanks
Oh,
for
you're
having
welcome.
me.
You're welcome, and
Appreciate
best wishes. And if you write some more books, you could come back and visit us again.
Oh, I'd love to. Thank you.
That's wonderful.
Okay.
All right.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you.
Thank you, Lee.
You're welcome. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. This is our first children's book author, and it's a local author. And we're going to do more and more shows with local authors because we should. We should talk to people from Pittsburgh creating things that are doing some good things. I hope you enjoyed our time. Please join us for another edition of One-on-One. I'm your host, Lee Adams.